Hello everyone, welcome back to another Python video. This is a relatively long video because I took my full playlist of 25 different projects and made it into one just so you can follow through with it a lot easier. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys can learn from it. I hope you guys enjoy it and like and subscribe because you did enjoy and learn from it, and I will link the playlist in the comments down below or in the description where you can find all the videos, and each video will have the full code where you can copy paste it and modify it to your liking. And that's basically it. These projects are not too difficult, they're not too easy, they're not really ranked in difficulty, so some of them you'll see as you go through the video as easy, some of them you'll see as a bit more complex, or some of them are pretty long programs, but they're really easy to understand. So without further ado, I'll let you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I did not remove the intros or the outros from the video just so you can have a friendly reminder to like and subscribe, and to also know what the video is going to be about before I dive into the program. But yeah, that's pretty much it. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can view the calendar for any month of any year. So to get started, we're going to need to import the calendar module. So import calendar, and then we're going to have to define a function, because functions are reusable blocks of code and you can just call it anytime you want. So we're going to create a function called calendar viewer. And within the function, we're going to have two variables. One is the year, and you guessed it, the other one is the month. So we're going to be asking for the input for each one, to enter the year and to enter the month. And then after that, we're going to be printing print calendar and then dot month. So we're going to be printing the whole month of whatever is selected as for the year and the month. And then of course we defined the function so we can call the function. So we call the function and it's going to say enter the year, for example 2025. So let's say 2025 because that's the year we're in right now. Enter the month. We're in February right now, or I'm in February. I don't know when you're watching this. So 2, and it's gonna display the month. So today is Monday the 3rd, as you can see right here, or today is the 3rd of February, and as you can see that's Monday, and tomorrow's gonna be that and that, Tuesday the 4th. And we can just try this again. Let's say 2002. Enter the month 7 because that's my birthday month, and you can see this is what my birth month looks like, and you can see it's actually perfect, like from 1 to 31 all in 1 month, and they're occupied, like it starts on Monday, which is great, but whatever. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe, and you can modify this and try different things with this code, and of course it'll be posted in the comments down below. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video we're going to be making a simple Mad Libs game. And if you don't know what Mad Libs is, it basically is a word game created by Leonard Stern and Roger Price. It consists of one player prompting others for a list of words to substitute for blanks in a story before reading aloud. And basically it could be chill, it could be fun. So first we're going to start off with defining the function of Mad Libs. And then we want to print, of course, welcome, as usual, welcome. And then we want to have 5 variables. The first one is going to be noun. And the second one is going to be verb. And then we want to have an adjective, place, and a story. So within the noun, we're going to say input, and we're going to prompt the user to enter a noun. And same goes for the rest. Okay, so we have, like I said, 5 variables: noun, verb, adjective, place, and story. For the noun, we're going to be prompting the user to enter a noun. For the verb, we're going to be prompting the user to enter a verb. Same for adjective, enter an adjective. Place, enter a place. And for the story, it's going to say F, because we're going to be using keyword arguments, or positional arguments. So it's going to say one day, or sorry, keyword arguments, yeah. Okay, print F, and then one day, or sorry, F without the printf, my bad. One day, adjective, noun, decided to verb at the place. It was an unforgettable experience. So here you can replace adjective with an adjective, noun with a noun, verb with a verb, place with a place. So it could be anything. It could be one day a fat person decided to jump at the bouncy castle. It was an unforgettable experience. And then it's going to say print, and it's going to say here's your story. \n is for basically, like, after this print, it's going to skip to the next line, and then it's going to print the story. So that's basically it for the code. Let's call the function and see if it runs. So we're going to say madlibs, and then welcome, enter a noun. So let's say, let's do what I said. So enter a noun, person. Enter a verb, jumped. Adjective, fat. Place, let's say trampoline park. Okay, one day a fat person decided to jump. Oh, I made a mistake here. I added the ed. Let's just pretend that's not there. So one day a fat person decided to jump at the trampoline park. It was an unforgettable experience. And that's basically it for today's video. If you enjoyed or learned something new, please like and subscribe. And as always, the full code will be posted in the comments down below. Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be making a stopwatch, or a simple stopwatch program. And if we're dealing with time, you already know we're going to need the time module. So we're going to import it at the top, and then we're going to call our function, or we're going to define our function. So def stands for define stopwatch. So let's begin. So first we want to press enter to start the stopwatch. So here's the full code. Let's run it and see if it works. Then I will explain exactly what happened. So press enter to start the stopwatch. Press enter again to stop it. Ready? Okay. So let's wait a few seconds. It's about, like, let's say 5-6 seconds. We press again, enter, and it stops it. So I was right, it is 6 seconds. So here's how this works. So print, it's gonna print, press enter to start the stopwatch, and then press enter again to stop it. Okay, great. Input, ready? So it's gonna ask you, ready? And then input is basically, if you press enter with nothing said, then it triggers this. And then it's going to say start time. This is a variable. So time.time is equal to start time. So that is basically saying that the start time is the time. Okay. And then input stopwatch running, press enter to stop it. So again, if we press enter, it's going to trigger this and it's going to end it. So end time equals time.time. So it has the time now for the start time, and then when it ends, it's going to have a new time. So that's going to be the ending time. And then elapsed time, that's the new variable. Elapsed time equals to end time minus start time. Because if we start at, let's say, for example, 0 hours or something, and then we go all the way over to, let's say, 5 seconds or hours or whatever. So we're going to say 5 minus 0, and it's going to be 5. If it starts at 1 o'clock and it ends at 5 o'clock, then it's going to be 5 minus 1, which is 4, So it's going to be 4 hours between the start time and the ending time, and you get the point. And then we're going to say printf, and we're using printf because we have a keyword argument over here with .2f. .2f is basically, it stands for like basically 2 floating point values or numbers. So if we have, let's say 10 point something, and .2f is going to count everything before the decimal, and after the decimal, because it says .2f, it's going to count only the first 2 decimals. If it said .3f, then it would count the first 3 decimals, and you get the point. And then it's going to say seconds after that, and then we call the function stopwatch, and let's try again. So press enter to start. Okay, we press it again, it ended. So we took 1.89 seconds between when we first started it and we ended it, and now you know that the code works. So if you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please like and subscribe, and as always, the full code will be in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be making a multiplication table. So as always, we always start off with the function, define function, which is the multiplication table function, and we're going to have 2 variables for this example. And I want to say this is purely simple. You can always modify it and make it better in the future, but this is just, you could say like a stepping stone, or like the beginner step, and then you can modify it as you want. So we're going to start off, like I said, with the function, and then we're going to have 2 variables. So the first variable is going to be the number, and the second is going to be the limit. The number is going to be the number that you want the multiplication table for, and the limit is going to be how much you want to go up to. So basically, if we have the number 5, we want to display 5 times 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 all the way up till what? And that's where the limit comes in. So let's start off with a basic input. So we're going to say int because it's going to be accepting an integer. So int input, and then we're going to prompt the user to input a number. So enter a number to generate. And then for the limit, we're going to also ask for another input of an integer, which is going to be input. After that, we're going to have a basic print statement just to make things a little bit clean. So it's going to be a printf statement, and it's going to be printf, and then so basically this is going to be displaying multiplication table 4, and then it's going to give the number that you gave. And then after that, we will make a simple for loop. In the for loop, we will have for I in range, and what's going to be the range? It's going to be from 1 to limit, and then we're going to say +1, because in Python, if you don't do +1, in this case, it will always be 1 short. So if we enter the limit as 10, it'll go up to 9, because it just does that, because it starts off from 0. And in this case, we're making it start by 1, but it still does it. So I'm not really sure why, but that's just the case. So, and then we want to say print f, of course, print f, and then it's going to say the number times whatever I is at the moment, because it's going to be incrementing by 1, and all the way up to the limit, of course. And we're going to say number again times I. So it's going to be the number, it's going to display number times I. So what if the number is 5, it's going to display 5 times 1, and then 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4, whatever, all the way up to the limit. And then it's going to say equals. After every one, it's going to say the number. It's going to give you the product, basically, of the number times I. And let's just run it to make sure it works. So make sure the indentation is good, and then we call the function, and let's see. Okay, enter a number to generate its multiplication table. So let's say 9. And then enter the limit you want to go up to, let's say 10. Okay, so 9 times 1, 9 times 2, and as you can see, this is all correct. let's try it again. 4 times up to let's say up to 5 only. So there you go. So if you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please like and subscribe and let me know what you want to see more of, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video we are going to be making an email validator program in Python. It's basically going to validate, to check if the email is a valid email or not. And first we're going to need an import. We're going to need to import RE. So RE is basically just stands for regular expressions. Regular expressions are basically this concept in computer science, which means basically like it follows a certain pattern or order, and that will soon make sense with this example. So to get started, we need to define the function def and then email validator. Within the function, we're going to have two variables. So in the email variable, it's going to be asking the user for an input. It's going to say enter an email address. In the pattern variable, this is going to be used later in the if-else statement. So starting off, we're going to have this, and I forgot what this is called, but I think superscript or something like that, but that is going to be the start of the string. And then from here to here, this is going to be matching the local part of the email, which means it's going to be allowing the letters, lowercase and capital, digits, and whatever kind of symbol you have. And then it's going to be followed by an @ and then it's going to be followed by the same thing, kind of, and then it's going to be followed by \dot, which means it's going to ensure that there is a dot before the last extension. And then after that, the extension is going to be either A to Z, capital or small, and then it's going to make sure that it's at least 2, because sometimes there is .com, which is 3, sometimes it's .gov, which is also 3, and then sometimes it's like 2 letters, which is like .sa, for example. And this is basically just going to make sure that it is at least 2 characters. And then this is for the end of the string. This is to tell the program that this is the end. Moving on, we're going to have the if statement, the if-else statement. So if RE, regular expression, dot match, pattern with email. So if the pattern matches with the email, we are going to be printing the email and then saying this is, that it is a valid email. And else, of course, we're going to be printing the email and saying that it's an invalid email. Please try again. And then, of course, pay attention to the indentation. We're going to be running the function. So let's try and see if this is correct, or if it works, sorry. So if I print this invalid, okay. We'll try again with an @ this time, and then some letters, invalid. Okay, now let's try a real email. So this, and then this, @that, and then .com. It's a valid email. Let's try again. Something, something, actually, let's try it with some symbols. @something .com. It's a valid email. So as you can see, the program works. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Of course, the code will be in the comments down below. As always, you're free to use it and try some different things out. You can also mess with this to add some more symbols or delete some symbols. But yeah. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be making a dice roller in Python. So rolling a die is very, very, very random. You can get either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. With that knowledge, we're going to need to import the random module, because again, it is very random. So as always, we start with a function, and we're going to call it dice roller. So def, which stands for define dice roller. And this is probably going to be one of the last, I guess you can say, extremely simple programs that I make with the random module. I'm going to be using it more often, or like more in the future, but this is going to be like one of the last like really simple, easy programs. So let's get started. So we're going to need to print, and we're going to say welcome. And this isn't important, of course, but it's just for giggles. So dice count. This is how you initialize a variable. So we're going to be initializing a variable called dice count, and we're going to say int, which is typecasting, and there's more on that on my channel in another video if you don't understand what that is, but we're going to be typecasting the input of a string to an integer. So input, how many dice would you like to roll? So it's going to ask you how many dice would you like to roll, and then we're going to store that within, or we're going to have the results variable, and within the results variable we want to say random dot rand int, which stands for random integer, and that's going to be either 1 through 6, so it's going to be picking a random integer from 1 through 6, 4 underscore in range dice count. So what this is doing is it's going to say random dot rand int, which means it's going to pick a random integer. This is a function right here from the random module, and it's going to be picking a random integer from 1 through 6 for each, I guess this little underscore means for like each element in range of dice count. So if dice count is 1, it's just going to do it one time. It's just going to pick randomly from 1 through 6. But if we say 3 dice count, then we're going to be rolling 3 pieces of dice. So it's going to pick a random number from 1 through 6 for each one of those dice. So it might say 111, it might say 136, whatever, something random. But yeah, okay. And then it's going to print f, and then we want to see the results. So the results is colon and then results. So let's try it out. Let's hope it works. So we want to say dice roller just to call the function, and when you call the function, all of this runs. So let's see. Welcome. How many dice would you like to roll? Let's say 2. Okay, 3 and 6. So the first die got 3 and the second one got 6. So let's run it again. How many dice would you like to roll? Let's say 5. Okay, so the first one is 1, 3, 3, 1, and the last one is 4. So as you can see, the program works. I hope you guys learned something new. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them down in the comments down below, where this full code will be posted. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Hello and welcome back to another Python video. In this video we're going to be making a name picker, or a random name picker. So of course, to get started, since it is random, we're going to need to import the random module. And again, you should be getting more and more familiar with the random module now that I keep using it. I've used it in a bunch of other projects. You're welcome to check them out on my channel. But let's get started. So this is going to be a quick and easy video. So def name picker, this stands for define, and this is the name of our function. This is how you initialize a function. So def name picker, and then what do we want to say within the function? So first we're going to have 2 variables. So first is going to be name, or names, and then that's going to be equal to input, and it's going to tell the user to enter names separated by commas. And then we want to split that, dot split, and then we want to enter the comma here. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to take everything that is separated by commas and it's going to split them into each individual parts. And then we want to say random, this is going to be our second variable, random underscore name, equals. What does it equal? It's going to equal random dot choice, and then within that we're going to say name dot strip for name in names. And I'll explain what that means in a bit, but after that we're going to need to print f, and it's going to say the chosen name is, and of course print f because we're going to be using the keyword arguments, and we're going to input the random name. And then of course we need to call the function, so name picker. So let me explain what this is before we run the code and try it out. But random underscore name, that's the name of our variable, equals to random.choice. So this is how you make a random choice. Basically, this is how you tell the program to pick a random choice. And it's going to say name.strip for name in names. So name.strip is basically, it's going to strip the names. Basically, each name will be on their own. And then for name and names, this is kind of like a for loop that's going to iterate within the list of names. So it's going to iterate for each name in the list of names. I hope that makes sense. So it's going to be for each name in the list of names. And it's going to name.strip means it's going to be, each name is going to be on their own, just so they're not all together and it's just one big list. So let's run it. Enter names separated by commas. I'm not going to enter actual names. Let's say, for example, Ford, or sorry, oops, I made a mistake. I didn't separate them by commas. Ford, comma, Chevy, comma, Dodge. The chosen name is Ford. So let's, let me copy paste that. Let's try it again. In this case, it was Ford. Now it's going to be Ford again. Now it's Chevy. And as you can see, it works. It's going to keep changing randomly. It's going to keep saying Ford, Chevy, or Dodge. It's just going to keep picking a random one. So now that we know the code works, we can end the video here. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed or learned something new. And if you did, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be making a word counter project. So to get started, we're going to need to define the word counter function, which is a reusable block of code that performs a specific task. So in this case, it's going to be counting words. So to start off, we're going to need a text input, or we're going to need to prompt the user for an input. So we do that by saying input, and then within the input, we're going to say enter a text, and we're going to store that in a variable. So variable, we're going to call it text, and then we're going to say dot strip. So dot strip basically means that this is a function that's going to remove any leading or trailing white spaces, so any white spaces before or after a word, and new lines, tabs, whatever. So moving on, we're going to need another variable, and it's going to be words. So words, and we're going to store text dot split within the words variable. So what this is going to do is split is going to break the string into a list of words using white spaces as the default separator. So it's going to be enter, and then this is going to be the default separator, and this is also going to be the default separator, white spaces. So this is going to be 3 words, for example. So text.split, it's going to be stored in words. And then we want another variable. So we're going to say word underscore count, and we're going to store the length of words into word count. Moving on, we're going to say char or car underscore count. So this is another variable equals to length of text. And this is all going to make sense once you see it in action. And then we're almost at the end. No more variables, thank God. We're gonna say print, and we're gonna say printf actually, so we can print an f string, and we're gonna say word count, and then within that we're gonna add the word underscore count. And then we're gonna say another printf. So printf, we're gonna say character. Okay, so we have the printf for the word count, and it's going to display the word count, and then we have the printf for the character count, including white spaces, and it's going to count that and display it here. So, and then we call the function, of course. So if we run this file, okay, I made a small tiny mistake, and this is why you should always pay attention to indentation in Python. I had this over here, which meant it was in the block of code. So when you run, it just, nothing happens because we're not actively calling the function. So if you indent this way, like with no indentation, it will be outside of the function, therefore it'll call the function and it'll work. So it's going to say enter a text. So I'm going to say, hi, I'm Yusuf. So it's 3 words, and the character count including white spaces is 12. So let's just type my name only. It's going to say 1, and my name has 6 letters. And you can play around with it as much as you want. So we can say I love Python, and it'll keep working as expected. So that's it for this video. If you guys have any suggestions on what you would like to see in the future, please let me know. And as always, the full code will be in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be making a random story generator. So with that being said, of course, if it's going to be a random, anything random, whether it's, you know, rolling a die or, you know, random numbers, whatever, you need the random module. So import random at the top as always. And then, of course, we need the reusable block of code known as a function. So def, and then we define the function. Within the function, we are going to be having 4 variables. So the first variable is going to be characters, and then places and actions. So let me fill in these variables real quick, and I'll get back to you. Now, we have, like I said, these first three variables. We have characters, places, actions. For characters, we have a wizard, a dragon, an astronaut, and a knight. And places, we have in a forest, on Mars, in a cave, in a castle. And then actions, we have fought a monster, discovered a treasure, saved the world, and had a magical adventure. And you can probably see where this is going, but if you don't, you will soon. So first we need to pick something random from each of these lists, and you can tell it's lists because we are using square brackets. And so we're going to say character, and this is how you pick something random. We're going to say equals random dot choice, and where would we like to choose the random choice from the characters variable. And same goes for the next 2 variables. So we're going to say place for this and action for this, and then of course we're going to replace it. And now the fun part. This is where we make up the story. So we're going to have a story variable. This is the 4th and final variable. Story equals f and then double quotes. Okay, starts off saying once upon a time. Once upon a time, the character, and then we're going to say in a place, so place, and action. Can you see where this is going? And then let's end it by saying it was an unforgettable journey. And now, last but not least, definitely not least, we print the story. And for all of this to work, of course, we need to focus on the indentation and call the function. So it's gonna, I'll explain it after I run it. So let's make sure it works. Okay, it works. So after quick adjustments, I made it so that it says was and he within this. So once upon a time, a wizard in a forest, a wizard was in a forest, and he fought a monster. It was an unforgettable journey. So let's run it. Once upon a time, a wizard was in a castle and he fought a monster. It was an unforgettable journey. We run it again. We get another random story. Once upon a time, an astronaut was in a forest and he discovered a treasure. It was an unforgettable journey. And so on and so forth. You just keep running it and you get a random story every single time. So that's basically it for this video. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please like and subscribe, and I encourage you to make your own version of this and play around with it and see where it takes you. You might learn something new. Hello and welcome back to another Python video. In this video we're going to be making a coin flip, a virtual coin flip program. So a coin flip is very random. So because of that, we're going to need to import the random module. And then we're going to define the function coin flip, and then we're going to call the function at the end to see if it works or not. So let's get started. So first we want to print, what do we want to print? We want to print, let's say welcome. Let's just say welcome only. I don't need to yap too much. Okay, welcome. And then we're going to say while true, because this needs to be a while loop that's going to keep running until we tell it to stop, or we want it to stop. So while true, what do we want to do? That rhymes, but whatever. So the result is going to be random dot choice. And if you've been following my previous projects, this will slowly start to get very familiar, and you will pretty much get the hang of it, and it'll be very easy. So it's going to be, you know, random dot choice, and it's going to, what are the two choices? Either heads or it's going to be tails. Moving on, we are going to be printing print, and then we're going to say the choice, or let's say the coin landed on, and then of course we're going to say heads or tails, but this needs to be an printf statement because of that. And then we're going to call the result function, or the result variable, sorry, because here it's going to make a random dot choice of heads or tails. So it's going to choose either heads or it's going to choose tails, and then it's going to store that in result, and here we're going to be printing the result. So I hope that makes sense so far, and that's it. But what if we want to try it again? So we're going to call an again variable, or initialize an again variable, and it's going to have an input, and it's going to ask you, do you want to flip again? And let's make it easier for the user. We're going to say yes/no. So you're going to need to input yes or no. And then we want to make it dot lower just in case they have all caps on or something. And then we're going to move on and say if again not equals to the string yes, then we want to print goodbye. And then we want to break, of course. But if not, then if it is yes, then it won't run this, and therefore it will not print goodbye, and it will not break out of the loop, so the loop will keep running. So I hope it works now. I hope everything is good. Let's try it out. Welcome, the coin landed on heads. Flip again, yes or no. So one thing I want to point out here is we said if again not equals yes. So this is only about the word yes, Y-E-S. If we say anything else, it'll be considered a no. So if I say this, for example, it's a no, so it's going to say goodbye. If I say no, it's going to say goodbye, and it's going to break out of it. Whatever I say other than yes, it will say goodbye and break out of the loop. But if I say yes, it landed on heads, we say yes. Landed on tails, we say yes. It's going to keep playing as long as I keep saying yes. But as soon as I say anything else, it's going to say goodbye. So let's run it again, play again, tails, and so on and so forth. Heads, heads, and you can keep saying yes to keep playing, and so on and so forth. So that's it for the virtual coin flip. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed or learned something new, please like and subscribe. And of course, the full code will be down in the comments below. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be making a tip calculator. So basically, when you go to a restaurant and you want to calculate the tip for your bill to give to the waiter, then you need this tip calculator. So as always, we're going to start off with a function. So def tip underscore calculator. And within the function, we will have our try and accept block, because we want to be dealing with numbers only. So we want to accept the value error if the user decides to type a string instead of an integer or a float. So try, and we will have the accept block after it. So we want to accept a value error. So let me get that out of the way. And we want to print to tell the user that it's an invalid input and you should only use numbers. Okay, so within the try block, this is where most of our code is going to be. We will have a few variables. So the first one is going to be the bill amount. And the next one is going to be, oh, sorry, that should be an equal sign. The next one is going to be the tip percentage, and then the tip, and then the total. So for the bill amount, we want to tell the user to enter the bill amount. So first we want to typecast it to a float, because we want to be dealing with float values, basically, not integers, because it could have, because the whole reason why we need a tip calculator is because it might have some decimals, which are going to be harder to calculate off the top of your head. So float input, and then we're going to tell the user to enter the bill amount. And the tip percentage is same thing, but for the tip percentage, basically. So we want to say input. So we want to say 15 for 15% or 1 for 1%, whatever. And then we want to say for the tip, we want to calculate, this is going to be math, so it's going to say tip percentage divided by 100, because it's a percentage, and then we want to times that by the bill amount. And then the total is going to be the bill amount plus the tip. Bill amount plus the tip. So it's basically just very, very simple math. And then we want to print to tell the user that, or it's going to be printf, because we're going to be using the tip, or using the variable. So tip amount is going to be equal to tip dot 2f. And then we want to also print the total amount. So printf total amount is going to be equal to, and then again dot .2f because we want to use 2 decimal places, no more than that. So .2f basically ensures that. So that's basically it. Let's try to execute and see if it works. Let's call the function, current file, run it. I forgot to add this. Oops. Okay, enter the bill amount. Let's say the bill is 154.93. So enter the tip percentage, let's say 10%. So it should be 15.49. Yeah, 15.49, and then it adds it together and you get that. So that's basically it for this code. I hope you guys enjoyed or learned something new. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello and welcome back to another Python video. In this video we're going to be talking about, or we're going to be making a countdown timer in Python. So of course we're going to need to import time because we're going to be dealing with time. So we're going to need to import the time module, and then of course, as always, we start with a function. So the function is called countdown timer. DEF stands for define, and within the function we need a try and except block. And if you don't know what that is, basically that is exception handling. I have a video on that, you can go check that out for more information. But basically we're going to be using numbers, so we need to check if the input is a number or not. If it's not, it's going to be an invalid input and it's going to throw an error. So to catch that error, we need to use a try and except block. So within the try block, we're going to start with a variable, and it's going to be seconds. So for seconds, we want to input the seconds. So we're going to convert it to integer. This is typecasting. Again, I also have a video on that if you don't understand what that is, but we're going to say int input. We're going to be typecasting the input from a string to an integer, and it's going to say enter the number of seconds. Moving on, we're going to say while seconds is greater than 0, because if it's less than 0 or it's at 0, that means we already reached 0, which means the countdown is over. So while the countdown, or while seconds is over 0, we want to print the time remaining. So we're going to print f, and we're going to be using printf because we want to print the seconds, and that's going to be a variable that's constantly changing. So we're going to use printf, and we're going to say time remaining is seconds, and this is where printf comes in handy, seconds, and then we're going to say seconds, because this right here is not going to show, but this will only show as the number of seconds, not the word itself. And then after that, we're going to say time dot sleep, and we want it to sleep for 1 second. And then we want to say seconds, we want to decrement the seconds, so seconds minus equal 1. And then we want to print time's up. And then after that, we want to accept the value error, like I said before. So the value error is basically when you input, let's say you're expecting, in this case, an integer, and we input a string, it's going to say accept value error, because we are inputting a string where there should be a variable, there should be an integer, sorry. So that's going to interrupt the whole code, the whole program. So with the try and accept block, we stop the program from being interrupted, and instead it keeps the program running, but it tells you to fix it. And this is us telling it, or telling the user to fix it, because it is an invalid input. Please enter a number. And that's basically it. Let's run it and hopefully it works. Okay, enter the countdown time in seconds. So let's say 10 seconds. So it's gonna start counting. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. And as you can see, the process finished. Code is successful. And you can try this for as much as you want. Let's say 1,000 seconds. So this is going to count down from 1,000 all the way to 0. Obviously, I'm not going to wait that long, but you can try it out for yourself. The code will always be down in the comments down below. Thank you very much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed or learned something new, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So a very common project or assignment you might get as a computer science student is checking if the number is prime or not. And that is what we're going to be doing today in this Python video. So it's going to work by basically if the number is less than or equal to 1, then it's going to return false, because numbers that are less than or equal to 1 are not considered prime. And it will also loop through potential divisors from 2 to the square root of the number. And that is because if a number has a factor larger than its square root, it must always have a smaller factor. For example, if you have 16 and the factors are 2 times 8, you could say, and 4 times 4. So that's one quick example. Another thing we want to check is if the number is divisible by any of these values, which means that if you divide it by a value, it will give you 0, which means there's no remainder, then it will return false, because if it is divisible by something other than itself and 1, then it is not prime. And if there are no divisors found, then it will be a prime number and it will return true. So this will all make sense with an example. So let's run through a quick little programming session. So to get started, as always, we're going to need to define the function, and we're going to call that isPrime. So we're going to check if it's prime or not, and we're going to have one argument, which is the number. Okay, so if the number is less than or equal to 1, what do we want to do? We want to return false, which means it's not prime. Now, we want to write a for loop to iterate through the range. So let's backtrack a little bit. Right now, it says if the number is less than or equal to 1, it's going to return false, because like I said, anything less than or equal to 1 is not considered prime. And then we have a little for loop here, which is going to range from 2 to the square root of the number plus 1. And if there are no divisors, or sorry, if there's no remainder, it's going to return false, which means it's not prime. If there is a remainder, then it will return true. And this is how you find the square root of the number, and you need to add 1 because it will always be 1 less, so you need to add 1. So let's continue. So this is just to check if it's prime or not, or just to check if the number is prime or not. And then we're gonna have another function, and we're gonna call it prime underscore checker. There is a way you can put these two together, but I'm just, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just making them separate. So let's do the next function. So num, which is a variable short for number, is going to be int input. We're going to be typecasting the string to integer, and we're going to say enter a number to check if it's prime. Okay, moving on. We will check if it's prime now. So we're going to say if is prime, and then we're going to pass in the number as a, or the num as a, argument. So if it's prime, we're going to print f, and we're going to say that the number that we inputted or entered is prime. So is a prime number. And if it's not, then it's not. So we're gonna say else print f, and then we're gonna do the same thing. Num is not a prime number. And then we're gonna call the function prime checker. Okay, that's great. I don't know why I have is here. I was probably talking when I typed it, but let's try it and see if it works. So enter a number to check if it's primed. Let's say 5. 5 is a prime number. Okay, let's try again. Let's say 9. 9 is not prime, so it's not prime. Okay, let's say 53. It's a prime number. Okay, let's say 99. Prime, not a prime number. Okay, let's say 1. Not a prime number. Let's say 2. It's a prime number. Okay, so you can see clearly that it works perfectly. And that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed or learned something new. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be making a number guessing game. So this is going to ask you to enter a number between 1 and 100, and it will count how many attempts you take to guess the right number, and at the end it will tell you if you got it right or wrong, of course, and it will keep track of the attempts, and if you guess too low or too high, it will tell you. So to get started, of course, we need the random module, because we're going to be basically asking the computer to pick a random number, and we're going to be trying to guess it. So we're going to start off with a function as usual, so def, which stands for define, and then we're going to call it number guessing game. And within the function, we will have most of our code, actually. So we're going to say number to guess. That's going to be the name of our variable. And that's going to be equal to random dot randint, which stands for random integer. And then we're going to input 1 to 100, which means basically what I just said, from 1 to 100. So it's going to be picking a random integer from the range of 1 to 100. And then we're going to say attempts, we're going to set that to equal to 0, of course, because we start off with 0 attempts. And then we want to print guess the number. So we're going to say while true, because this needs to be a while loop so that it keeps running until we basically guess the right answer. So we're going to have a try and catch block, because someone might not enter a number, and we need to catch that error so that the program keeps running, or else we will run into an exception error, or a value error, sorry, and that will cause the program to crash, and we don't want that. So we're going to say user underscore guess, and that's going to be equal to int, this is typecasting, input, and we're going to say enter your guess. Moving on, we're going to have attempts plus equals 1, which means basically here it's going to ask you to enter a guess. You're going to enter it, and then after you enter it, it's going to be plus 1 attempt. So that's great. And then if user underscore guess is lower than the number to guess, then we want to print and say that it is too low. And same thing for too high, except, you know, the opposite. And we want to have an else statement because if it's not too low or too high, then we guessed it right, which means we print congratulations you guessed it in, and then this is where we enter the attempts in attempts. And of course this needs to be a printf statement because we are using a keyword argument over here, and that needs to be a printf statement. Moving on, we want to accept the value error, so because we must have the accept block for the try block, so that's why you keep seeing this right here. That's because we have a try block without the accept block. So accept value error, and we want to say print please enter a valid number. So that's basically it. Let's see if it runs. Let's call the function and run it. So guess the number between 1 and 100. Enter your guess. Let's say 50. Too low. Okay, so it's higher than 50. So let's say 75. Oh, too low again. So let's say 99. Too high. Okay, 80. Too low. 85. Too low. 86. 89. Too high. Okay, so it must be 88 or 87. Okay, 88. And I got it right. So enter your guess. That's a problem right here. So we want to say, basically, if we get it right, we want to say break. That should fix it. So let's try it again. Enter the number. So let's say again 50. Too high. Okay, 46. Too high. Okay, 30. Too high. Okay, 20. 10. Too low. Okay, 15. Too low, 16. Okay, great. Now it works. Enter your guess. I entered 16 and we got it right. Congrats, you guessed in 7 attempts. It took us 7 attempts to get the right answer, and then the process finished because we have the break statement over here. So that's basically it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed or learned something new. If you did, please like and subscribe. And as always, this full code will be posted down in the comments below. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be making a simple password strength checker. So let's get started. But before I get started, I really want to thank you guys for 500 subscribers. I actually can't believe I'm here. So if you would, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And let's get on with the video. So to start off, we're going to need to import RE, which stands for regular expression. And a regular expression basically just specifies a set of strings that matches it. So if we say we want the regular expression to start with A, so if you have a list of words like that and you say it has to start with A and end with anything, that's what your definition for regular expression is. And it would basically select this one and none of the others. If you say you want it to start with S, or S, it would be like, it would select these. If you say SA, it would select these only, and so on. You get the point. So that's what a regular expression is. So we're going to start off with one function and then a few if-else statements, and that's basically just going to be the whole program. So it's pretty simple. So let's get started. We need to define the function. So def, let's call it checker for short, and then we're going to have if-else or if statements just to specify, just to see if it has the requirements or if it meets the criteria that we want to have a strong password. So to get started, like I said, we need to define the function, and then we need to call, or we need to initiate a variable, or initialize, sorry, a variable. So we're going to call that password, and it's going to be equal to the user input, and it's going to tell you to enter a password. Moving on, within the function, of course, we're going to say if length of the password, and then we're going to say if it's less than 0, what do we want to do? Or less than 8, sorry, less than 8. If it's less than 8, we want to print out that it is a weak password, and then we return. So okay, so for the first one, we have if length is less than 8 characters, we're going to print out, if length of the password length is less than 8 characters, we're going to print out that it's a weak password. Why? Because the password must be at least 8 characters long. It can't be less, or else it's a weak password. And then we're going to return. And for the next if statement, we're going to have f or if not re.search. So it's going to search in the regular expression from A to Z, and it's going to search our password. So it's going to search if our password contains A to Z, and if it doesn't, it's going to print weak, because the password must contain at least one lowercase letter. So let me make that capital, or let me make it all lowercase just to be accurate. Okay, and then we're going to return. And for the next one, we're going to do the same thing, except it's going to be for capital letters. So A to Z, and then must contain at least one capital letter. Moving on, we want numbers and we want symbols. So let's print another one of this and another one of this. So for this one, we're going to say 0 to 9, and we're going to say weak because password must contain at least one number. So to have a good password, it needs to be over 8, it needs to have at least one lowercase, at least one uppercase letter, it needs to have a number, and for the last one, it needs to have symbols. And then of course we're going to edit it and say it must contain at least one special character. Okay, that's great. Moving on. And if it's not in any of these print statements or if statements, we want to print your password is strong. So let's run it. So of course we need to call it. So checker. Great. Let's run it. Hopefully no errors. Okay, enter a password. Let's say 123. Weak, because it must be at least 8 characters long. Okay, let's try it again. 123, 123, 12. So that's 8. And then enter. Okay, it must contain at least one lowercase. Okay, let's try again. Enter a password. 123, lowercase. Okay, it must be 8 characters long. 123, lowercase, lowercase. Okay, one capital letter. Okay, so let's say 123, and then, oops. Try again. Okay, one special character. Let's try again. Okay, 123, 123, A, and then capital A, and then let's do a capital or a special character. Okay, great. Your password is strong. So there you go. The password checker works, and I hope you guys learned something new. If you did, please like and subscribe. And again, thank you very, very, very much for 500 subscribers. We're already at 528 today. I checked a few days ago and it was less than that, and we're still going up. I really appreciate all the love and support that I've been getting, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's hope we can get 1,000 subscribers soon. Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be making a simple BMI calculator. BMI basically stands for body mass index, and that basically tells you if you're underweight, normal weight, overweight, or obese, or there's class 1, class 2, class 3 obesity, and then there's underweight depending on how much it is. It could be like really bad, or you could be close to normal weight. So let's start with defining the function. So def BMI calculator, and then we're going to have a try and catch block because we're going to be using numbers, and if someone enters something that isn't a number, then we want to catch that error before the program catches it, and it will basically disrupt the whole flow of the program, and that's not good. So let's get started. So try, we want to have three variables. So we're gonna have a weight, height, and BMI. So right here we have float, input, enter your weight in kg, and then the same thing but for height, enter your height in centimeters, and then we have BMI equals to weight divided by height times 2. So float, right here I have float instead of int because integers are only integers, whereas float have floating point values, and someone might be 85.5 kilograms, so we need to catch that decimal, which is why we're using float, because with integers you cannot have decimals. And what I'm doing here is typecasting. I have a video on that. If you don't understand what that is, you can check it out. But basically we're turning this string into a float. So let's get started, or let's continue. So we want to print f, and then we want to say your BMI is, and then we want to say BMI colon dot 2f. And this might not make sense right now, but it will when I explain it. Basically, the dot 2f in this scenario stands for two floating point value. Like the floating point value, we want to have two floating points. So basically, if we get the answer to be 10.0 whatever, or 10.8 something, it will only catch these two. So it'll be 10.82. It will discard everything else because we have a 2 here. If we say 3 here, then it will be 10.821, and you get the point. So let's continue. So we want to say if BMI is less than 18.5, then we want to print underweight. And then moving on, we want to say else if, and within the else if statement, sorry, you need to pay attention to the indentation. So we want to say else if 18.5 less than or equal to, or sorry, greater than or equal to, wait, no, sorry, I got confused. It's going to be less than or equal to BMI So let's backtrack a little bit. So first we want to print your BMI is, and then we want to say what your BMI is with two floating point numbers. And then we want to say if the BMI is under 18.5, then we want to print category of underweight. So if it's anything under 18.5, you're underweight. If it's between 18.5 and 24.9, if your BMI is in between these two numbers, then we want to say the category is normal weight. If your BMI is anywhere in between 25 and 29.9, we want to say that you are overweight. And else, basically, if it's not under 18.5 and it's not in between these two numbers and it's not in between these two numbers, then that means it's over 29.9, which means that you are obese. And then we want to accept the value error, which is why you were seeing those two red dots at the end, because we did not accept anything. So we want to accept, after the try block, we want to accept something. So we're accepting the value error here, which means basically it is expecting a number. And if you input anything that isn't a number, say for example a string or a character, then it is a value error. And it will print invalid input, please enter valid numbers. And then we are calling the function here. So let's run it and see if it works. Enter your weight in kg. My weight is 88. Enter your height in centimeters. I am 182. Okay, so here we have a problem. Okay, so I figured out what the problem was. Basically, the height was in centimeters, but it should be in meters, not centimeters. So let's run it again and try it out. So enter your weight in kilos, 88 kilos. Enter your height in meters, so that's going to be 1.82, which is 182 centimeters. And now it says your BMI is 26.7 or 26.57, sorry, and category is overweight, which is good that I'm not obese. So that's basically it for today's code or today's program for BMI calculator. If you learned something new or enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and as always, the full code will be in the comments down below. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be covering a password generator project. It's going to be a pretty simple program that will basically just generate a password. So for this, we will need two imports, two modules. So one of them is going to be the random, because the password needs to be made at random, and also the other one needs to be string, because we're going to be making passwords out of strings. So let's get started with the main function. So we're going to define the function def, let's say generate password, and this function will take one argument, and that argument will be the length, because we need to know how much the length will be. We need to specify how much the length will be to generate the password that we want. And also string, it is a module that provides ASCII letters, digits, and punctuation. So ASCII letters meaning, like, you know, from A to Z, capital and lowercase, and also digits 0 to 9, and also punctuation, so any kind of punctuation. Okay, so moving on, we need to set a variable. So the variable needs to be, we'll call it characters. Okay, so here we have a characters variable, which contains string.ascii letters, string.digits, and string.punctuation. This looks kind of complicated at first, but if you think about it, it's pretty simple. This is just one thing plus another plus another. So we're adding the ASCII letters with the digits with the punctuation, and then we're going to create the password variable. So this is a variable that's just for our characters, and this is where our password will actually be stored. So let me add all the code for that, and then I will explain it. Okay, so the random.choice is pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. The random.choice characters just makes a simple choice between the characters. And what are the characters? As you can see, as we said, punctuation, digits, and letters. So it's going to choose a random, letter or digit or any one of the characters. Basically, it's going to choose it at random, and it's going to join it. So this for statement is used, and it runs length amount of times. So if length is specified to be 5, it'll run 5 times. And that's basically the range. And this underscore is basically just, you could say, kind of like a placeholder. It's not really important, but it needs to be there. You can say anything for L in length, it doesn't matter. But in this case, we're using underscore. And then we want to return the password. And also, before we do that, we want to join each character. We want to join it together in order to return the password. So now we move on to the main part of the function. So this is the main loop. So while true, we're going to be using a while loop to return the function. While it is true, which means it's an infinite loop that will only break when we tell it to break, or else it will just run infinitely. So we want to say length equals to int, and then we want to input. So this is typecasting int, because input is usually a string and we want it to be an integer. So we are typecasting int to input, and we want to say enter a password length. And then between parentheses, we want to say or 0 to exit. So this is basically going to run, and it's going to tell you to enter a password length or 0 to exit. If the user inputs 0, it's going to break out of the loop. If you input anything else, it will store that in length, and then it will generate the password using that length. So if we put 5, it'll create a 5-character password. If length equal 0, we break, because that's what we're telling it to do. And other than that, we want to printf actually, and we want to say generated password, and this is where the f comes in, because we're going to be using these curly braces. So generate password length. So let's try it out. Enter a password length or 0 to exit. So if we enter 0, that's it. We broke out of the loop, game over. If we try it again and we say 1, it generated a password, which is C, and it'll ask you to generate another one. We try again with 1, it's R. Try again, it's 7. Let's try a 10-character password. This is our password. Let's try another 10-character password. That's our password. 34. That's our password. This is what you would usually get suggested from Google, and it's the most complicated thing ever. So that's basically it. And then when you're done, you can just press 0 and you can exit the code, and that is it for our password generator. It's pretty simple, just 14 lines of code. I hope you guys learned something new, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you would like any other small projects or tutorials, please let me know. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try my best to give you what you want. So recently I was in the gym and I hurt my back doing deadlifts. And I've been getting slowly better every day, but my back still hurts a lot, and I've been having this decision to make whether I should stay home or go to the gym and do some, stay in the jacuzzi a little bit, or go to the sauna to help me recover. And I haven't been able to make a decision, so I decided to make a random choice picker to make the choice for me. So of course, to do that, we're gonna have to import the random library. So import random, and for this we're gonna have the function random choice picker. So we're gonna define the function, and within the function we're going to print just a welcome message. So welcome to the random. So first we're going to start with a choices array. So choices equals empty array, and within the function we're going to have a while loop. So while true, what do we want to do while it's true? While true, we want to have a choice, and the choice is going to be equal to the input, the user input, and it's going to tell you enter a choice. And at some point you're going to have maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 choices, and at some point you're just going to stop. So we're going to say enter a choice or type done. Let's put that in quotes. Done to finish. Let's put this in single quotes actually, so that there's no problem with it. And then we're going to say if choice dot lower equal done. What do we want to do? we want to break. So what this is going to do, if choice.lower, so choice, which is the user input, if we're going to make it lowercase, and then when it becomes lowercase, if it equals to done, because you might type done in all caps or capitalize the first letter, so it's going to turn it into all lowercase, and if it's equal to done, it's going to break out of the loop because we're done with our choices. We typed all the choices we want. But if not choices, and this is going to basically make sure that we type a choice, you know, instead of just pressing or typing done without having any choices inputted, we're going to say if not choices, print you need to enter at least one choice. And then we're going to continue the statement because it's going to continue until we enter a choice or type done, and then it's going to break out of the loop. And then we're going to say choices dot append, and what do we want to append? We want to append choice, because we're going to take choice and we're going to append it to choices, which is the array. And append basically means add it to the end of the array. So that's basically it for our function. Moving on, we're going to print and make sure the indentations are correct, because if I type this here, it would not be a part of the function anymore. So it would have to be here. So we want to print \n choices, which is going to skip to the next line, and then it's going to print your choices. So we're going to say choices, comma choices. So this is going to type the choices word, and then this is going to type or print the array itself, and it's going to show our choices. And then we want to say print again, and let's say picking a random choice, just to kind of make like a little cool loading effect, ... And then we're finally going to print the choice. So we're going to say printf the choice is, or we should say the random choice is. And how are we going to select it? We're going to select it by making a variable, right? So selected equals random, and this is the picking process, random dot choice from choices. So it's going to pick a random choice from choices, and it's going to store it in this variable called selected, and then it's going to say here the random choice is, and then we're going to say selected. And that's basically it. Now all that's left to do now is to exit out of the loop by, with the indentation, and then we're going to basically just call the function. So random choice picker, and let's hope it works. And it works. So enter a choice or type done to finish. So let's type done. Okay, it's going to say you need to enter at least one choice. Done again. Done again. So it's going to keep telling you that until you type at least one choice. So let's type one choice. So let's say stay home, and then done. So choices, we only have one choice, stay home. Picking a random choice, and it chose stay home. So let's do it again. Enter a choice. Okay, choice is stay home. Go to sauna. Go to jacuzzi. I don't know how to spell jacuzzi. I think it's like this. And done. So the choice is stay home, which is exactly what I did. But let's try again. So home, sauna, jacuzzi. Done. Okay, this time it chose jacuzzi. So as you can see, it's very random. It just does whatever it wants. We can just type like literally anything. Done. and then it's just going to choose a random one of those. So that's basically it. This is the code. It's just 21 lines. It's pretty simple. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something new. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be making a simple voting system. So to get started, we have DEF voting system, which means we're defining the function, which is called voting system. And functions are reusable blocks of code, and we will be using it at the end of the program so we can run the function. So to get started, we have a variable, and the variable is basically a dictionary. This is the name of the dictionary, and you can tell it's a dictionary because it has curly braces, or curly brackets you can call them, and it has a value and like a key and a value and a key. A key value pair, you could say. So we have Alice, and that's 0, Bob 0, and then Charlie 0. And in the beginning, when you first run the function, it's going to say welcome to the voting system. So let's get started. So first we're going to need a while loop. So while true, and this is because we want the function to, or this block of code to keep running until we finally want to stop voting. So while true, print, what do we want to print? We want to print the name of the candidates. So it's going to be backslash. We're going to say backslash n because we want to skip to the next line. And then after that, we want to say candidates. So we have the candidates, Alice, Bob, and Charlie. It's going to display them in this print statement at the beginning after saying welcome to the voting system. And then we have another variable called vote. So vote equals to input because we want to be asking for the user's input on what they want to, or who they want to vote for. So it's going to be saying enter the candidate you want to vote for, or exit to quit. So when we type exit, it's going to quit the application, and then it's just going to display all the votes. But if we do not type exit, then it's going to keep asking us to keep voting, because you never know how many votes you're going to have. You know, you could have 5 people voting, or 10 people, or more or less, whatever. So, and then at the end, it's going to say .capitalize because we want to capitalize all the votes just in case we run into some kind of error. We want to make sure that everything is capital at the end, so that we have no error because one is capital or small, or capital or lowercase. Moving on, we're going to say if vote equal exit. What do we want to do? We want to, of course, break out of the loop and, you know, just terminate, just end it. Else if vote in candidates, what do we want to do? We want to increment. So candidates, and then vote plus equals 1. So this is saying else if the vote, which is our user input, if the vote is equal to the candidate, so one of the candidates, then it's going to increment that candidate's vote by 1. Moving on, it's going to print f, and then basically we're just going to say your vote for vote has been recorded, just as kind of like a confirmation. Okay, moving on, we want to say else print invalid candidate, which means if we type anything other than Alice, Bob, or Charlie, it's going to say invalid candidate because that's not in the list. Okay, great. So moving on, or we can say invalid candidate, please try again. That should be better. And then be careful with the indentation. We want to print, oops, backslash n, because we want to move to the next line, final results, and then we want to display the results. So final results, and then to display the results, we're going to need a for loop, because we're going to need to iterate through each and every vote and display it. So for candidate votes in candidates dot items, because the dictionary has the items, which are the candidates. So we want to print, of course, printf, and then within the printf we want to use the keyword candidate. Oh my god, sorry. Candidate and then votes, because we want to display the votes, and then votes. And that's basically it. Now let's try. I really hope I didn't mess anything up with indentations, but we will see shortly. So to call this, we need to say voting system and then run the file. Okay, welcome to the voting system. Skips a line. Candidates Alice, Bob, Charlie. Enter the candidate you want to vote for, or exit to quit. So let's try exit. Okay, so I made a small mistake, and the small mistake was really stupid, and it took me a while to figure it out. But basically, I had all my elements of the dictionary made like this, and it should have been more like this. This is what should be in between double quotes, and this should be without, but I had it like that. So silly mistake, but you know, sometimes a silly mistake costs you your whole program. So let's try to run it again. So exit, let's try it. Okay, here we go. Now it's working. So welcome to the voting system. These are the candidates. Enter the candidate you want to vote for, or exit to quit. I typed exit, so it exited and showed me the votes for each. So let's try it again. Let's say we want to vote for Alice 3 times, and we want to vote for Bob once and Charlie 0 times. So exit. So 3, 1, 0. As you can see, the code now works perfectly. Do not make the same mistake I made, and I hope you guys learned something new. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. And of course, I encourage you to copy this code from the comments down below and play around with it and try to see what you can come up with or modify it to make it better. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to another video for Python. In this video, we're going to be making a simple calculator program. So as you can see, at first we declared the variable and we assigned it to this input, and it says please enter a valid operator, either addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So we need to store numbers as well. So num1 equals 2 and num2 equals 2. So we kind of have to do the same thing here, which is ask for an input here and here. And for the input, we need to say please enter enter the first number, and for the second one we say please enter the second number. And let's put a semicolon, or a colon, sorry. And okay, if we run this, let's just make sure. Hold on. Current file, run, please enter a valid operator. It just doesn't do anything, but it stores it in this. Okay, great. So moving on. Okay, first we need to declare this as an we need to declare this right here as a float, because we're going to be using division and multiplication, and we don't know, you know, if there's going to be decimal values or not. So we need to typecast it by surrounding it with the float. And same for this one, so float, and this is how you typecast in Python. Okay, moving on. So if the operator equals to, let's say we start with plus, okay, then we want to say result equals to num1 plus num2. Great. And then we want to print the result, so print result. Okay, so I accidentally put a semicolon instead of a colon. It's my bad, but that's just now it works. So if we print it, we say plus, okay, please enter your first number, so that's 1 plus 2 equals 3. That's great, that's perfect. Okay, moving on. So we're gonna say if, or elif, sorry, the operator is a minus sign, then we want to do result equals num1 minus num2, and then we want to print the result. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, I forgot to add the equal sign, sorry. Okay, so minus, and let's say 3 minus 2, that's 1. Okay, perfect, perfect. Everything is working as expected. Okay, so elif operator equal, and we're gonna say multiplication, then we want to make the result be num1 times num2, and then we want to of course print the result. Okay, let's try it again. 2 times 3 equals 6. Okay, perfect. Okay, last but not least, we say elif operator equal, and that's division. Then we want to make num1 divided by num2, and we want to set that equal to the result, and then we want to print the result. Oops, okay. So let's say division, 6 divided by 2 should be 3. Okay, perfect. Okay, and of course we need an else statement, because what if the user doesn't input any of these? We need to find a way to catch that error, which is instead of just keep going, so else print this is an invalid operator, please try again. So if we input something stupid like this, invalid operator, please try again. Okay, great. Now we need to make some quick changes here and there just to make it a little cleaner and better and work better. So for example, let's say right here, if we say for division, okay, first let me just make a space right here, that should make it better. So division, let's say the first number is 5, second number is 2, that's 2.5, so that's great. But if we say some random number like this, oh wait, no, sorry, division, and then some random number like that, and then we divide it by, let's say 7, I hope is good. Okay, cool. Okay, as you can see right here, there's a lot of decimal places, so if we want to round it, we can make a good little change right here for this, for the division, which is print the rounded function. We add the round function to the result. and as you can see, it's rounded. But what if we want because this rounds it to the nearest integer. So what if we want to round it to the nearest, 3 decimal places? Okay, so you do the same thing, except here you add a 3. So if you do the same thing again, 7, as you can see, you get 3 decimal places and the rest are excluded. And, just for clean purposes, we can just replace all of this with it, just in case you have some kind of, when you're multiplying, you have some kind of decimals or something, you can also round that as well. So another change we can make is the printf. So with printf, you can say printf, and then here you would specify that the operator is an invalid operator. Okay, so here W is an invalid operator. Instead of saying this is an invalid operator, it tells you exactly what you wrote and it tells you that it's invalid, which makes it a lot better. Okay, and that's pretty much basically it. We have a simple calculator program with one variable for the operator, one variable for the first number, one for the second number, and then you can add, subtract, multiply, or divide, and you have an error handling line, kind of, you could say. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next one. So in this day and age, there are always things to do, and if you're a guy like me, you must always forget what you need to do. I always have a list of things I gotta do in my head, and then out of nowhere I just forget half of it and I end up not doing what I gotta do. So I took the liberty of making a to-do list. So here we have a function, define to-do list, and in the function we're going to have a list of tasks that we need to complete, and we're going to have a while loop. So we're going to say while true, and this is so that the whole time the program keeps running until we tell it to stop. So while it's true, we want to print the menu. So let me type that out real quick. Okay, so here we have a simple menu. First, it's going to tell you that there is a to-do list menu, and here are the menu items that you have. So number 1 is to view the tasks. Number 2 is to add the task. Number 3 is to remove task, and 4 is to exit out of the while loop. So we have a choice variable right here. So input, choose an option. So it's going to ask you to choose an option, and dot strip is basically just a function to remove any extra commas or white spaces that someone might enter. So if I say 1 space space, it will fix it to just 1 so that we don't run into any errors. So let's get started with the first menu item. So we're going to have a few if-else statements here, and for each and every item, and let's get started. So if the choice is equal to 1, what do we want to do? So if the choice is equal to 1, we want to print your tasks, and then we want to say for I, because we need a for loop to iterate through every task. So we want to say for I task in tasks. But what do we want to do here? We want to enumerate. So let's cross that out and say enumerate. So we want to enumerate through every single task, and then we want to printf actually, because we want to list the items. So we want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So we want to say I, and then we want to say dot after the I, so it's 1 dot and then space, and then we want to put the task in. Okay, that's great. So else, or I should fix the indentation here. Else, what do we want to do? We want to print that there were no tasks added. Because we might try to view the tasks with no tasks in the list itself. So that's basically choice number 1. So let's try to run it and see if it works. Right now it doesn't do anything, of course, because we are not calling the function. So let me do that. What's the function called? Okay. To-do list. Call it. Okay. So we have the to-do list menu. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. View tasks, add task, blah, blah, blah. Choose an option. Let's say 1 because it's the only one we have left. And right now it doesn't do anything. It just says your tasks are 0. So let's fix this minor issue right here. Right now it doesn't run this block of code. So that's because we need another if-else statement, or another if statement I should say. And we're going to say if tasks. So if there are tasks, we want to run this. And if there aren't any tasks, then we run this. So let's try it again. Let me fix the indentation. Okay. No tasks added yet. Okay, it works. Great. So let's move on. So we want to say elif. So else if choice is equal to 2. Then what do we want to do here? We want to say task equals 2. Of course, we need to add dot strip at the end. And then we want to say tasks dot append. Append is basically a function that adds to the end of a list. So at the end we want to append the list with a task. And then we want to print that it has been confirmed. So printf, let's say just add it to the list. Okay, great, moving on. So that was pretty simple. Now we have the third choice. So else if the choice is equal to 3. So equal 3. What do we want to do here? We want to, of course, remove. So task underscore num, which stands for number, equals to integer or int input. Okay, we want to ask the user to enter the number of the task that they want to remove. So here we need an if statement. So it's going to say if 0, and then we want to say task num. So if the task number is greater than 0, or if it's equal to or less than the number of tasks that we have, so we're going to say len, which stands for length, dot, or let's say, parentheses, tasks. Then we want to make a new variable and call it removed task. And that's going to be equal to task dot. So here we have the task number variable, and it's going to ask you to enter the task number that you want to remove. And then it's going to check if the task number is in between 0 or less than, or if it's basically greater than 0, or if it's less than or equal to the length of tasks. Because if we have 5 tasks and we enter 6, that's not very valid. So task underscore num, it's going to pop that out of the tasks, and it's going to place it in this variable, and it's going to say right here, it's going to print that the task has been removed, else invalid task number. Because if we say something like I said that is 0 or less, or over the length of the tasks, it's going to say invalid task number. So let's try and finish out this code. We're going to say elif choice equal to 4. Basically that means that we want to break out of it and exit the program. So we want to print goodbye, and then we want to break. And then just to make sure that we don't get any exceptions, we want to say else print invalid option. Because if we don't enter 1, 2, 3, or 4, then we must have entered something else, and that's an invalid option, and it's not going to do anything, and it's just going to keep going. So that's basically it for this program. Let's try it out. Okay, so to-do list menu, we have the 4 menu items that we want. So 1, okay, no tasks added yet. Okay, so let's add a task. So let's say 2. Enter a task. Let's say I'm a computer science student, so I should probably shower. And let's add another task. Let's say go to class. And after that, let's say go to the gym. Okay, now let's, and as you can see, it says go to the gym has been added to the list. So it confirms it. Okay, great. So now let's view the tasks that we have. 1 is shower, then go to class, then go to the gym. Let's say we want to shower after the gym as well. So shower again. Okay, let's view. Okay, everything is great. Everything is working perfectly fine. So now we know that view works, add works. So let's try remove. 3. Enter the tasks to remove. So let's say 2. I don't know what that is. So I just want to say before we start testing, I just want to say that here it used to say task. We want it to say tasks because we want to access the list, not like one task by itself. So let's try it out. Okay, here we have the to-do list menu with the menu items, and it's telling you to choose an option. So if we choose 1, it says no tasks added yet. Okay, so let's choose 2 and add a task. I'm a computer science student, so let's say I need to shower. And let's say after that we want to go to the gym, and as you can see, it says it confirms that it's been added to the list right here. And let's view what we have so far. So we have shower and then go to the gym. Let's say we want to shower again after the gym. Okay, so now we see that this works and this works. So let's try out number 3. So let's remove go to the gym because we need to study. Or no, I should type the number. So gym is number 2. Okay, go to the gym has been removed. Okay, so now let's view it. Now I just need to shower and then shower again. And then let's try out the exit, and it works. Process finished, and it says goodbye. And as you can see, the code works perfectly. And that's pretty much it for the to-do list in today's video. If you enjoyed or learned something new, please like and subscribe, and as always, the full code will be commented in the comments down below. Hello and welcome back to another Python video. In this video we're going to be talking about, or we're going to be making a Python quiz game. So to get started, we need a couple things to set the skeleton of the program. First, we're going to have a tuple of questions, and right now it's empty, of course, and we're going to have a tuple of options. We're going to have a tuple of answers, and then we're going to have a list of our guesses that we make, and we're going to have a score, and it's initialized to 0, and also question numbers, which is also initialized to 0. So to get started, I'm going to fill in the questions and the options and the answers, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I filled in the questions. The first one is, what is the capital of France? And then the second one is, who wrote the novel 1984? And then, what is the largest ocean on Earth? How many continents are there? And what is the square root of 64? And we have options. The options are A, B, C, or D. And this is a list or a tuple in a tuple. So this is a tuple itself, and it's inside the big tuple right here. And we have A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D for all the questions with its corresponding answer. So, and then we have a tuple of our correct answers. Correct answers. So, for example, what is the capital of France? The first question is going to be C, which is Paris. And then second answer is A, so George Orwell wrote the novel 1984, and so on. So these are all tuples. Why did I choose tuples? Because in Python, tuples cannot be changed, but guesses is a list, and a list can be changed. It's mutable, which means because right now it's empty, and with each guess that we make within the program, we're going to be appending to this list. So if I make a guess later and it says A, it's going to be added into here. And then if I say B, it's going to be added here, and then so on and so forth. So let's get started with the rest of the program. So first we want to make a for loop, and that's going to contain most of our program. So we're going to say for question in questions. So for each question in questions, what do we want to do? We want to print a dashed line just so that it's clean and we can differentiate between each question, I should say, and then we want to print the question. Moving on, within this for loop, we're going to make another for loop, and it's going to say for option in options. We want to print, what do we want to print? We want to print the option itself. And of course, we need to add in the list of question num, because we want to add the question number, or add the option for each question number. So for question number 1, we want to add the options for question number 1. For question number 2, we want to add in the options for question number 2, and so on and so forth. So pay attention to the indentation. It's going to be within the outer for loop. We're going to continue, and what we're going to do now is we're going to set up our guesses. So guess is going to be equal to input, and it's going to say enter a guess, and or I should just say enter A, B, C, or D. A, B, C, or D. And that's going to be our guess, and we're going to set it to dot upper, because this function right here will make any of what we input uppercase. So if we input lowercase a, it's going to make it uppercase a, and we do that just because these are all uppercase and we need it to be the correct answer. Because if it's lowercase and these are uppercase, it's going to be incorrect even though the answer is correct. And then we're going to say guesses dot append guess. So we have our list of guesses, and like I said, we're going to append, which append basically means to add at the end of the list. We're going to add the guess. So if I input A, it's going to add A to the end of the list here. And now we want to check if it's correct or not. So if guess equal answers, and then we want to pass in the question num list, because we want to check if the answer for the corresponding question number is correct or not. If it is, we want to say score. If it's equal to it, we want to say score plus equals to 1. And we also want to print out correct. So what this is going to do, as you can see here, score is initialized to 1, so this is going to increase the score to 1, from 0 to 1, and if it's 2, it's going to increase it to 3, and so on. It's just basically going to add 1. Else, because this could be incorrect, so if it is incorrect and it's not equal to the answer, then we want to print incorrect, and then we want to print the actual correct answer with a printf statement that says printf, and then answers, and then we want to get the answer for the corresponding question number, so question num, and then is the correct answer. And then outside the else statement, we want to increment the question number just so that we can move on to the next question. So question num plus equals 1. And moving on, this is how we display all the answers and make a guess and, you know, find out if it's correct or not correct. So let's check what we have so far. What is the capital of France? We want to say C, Paris. So as you can see, it says correct, and then it moves on to the next one. So A, and then again correct. The answer here is C, but I'm going to put A just to check. It's going to say incorrect, C is the correct answer. And like I said, C is the correct answer, and so on. So let's move on and try to display the results, because as of right now, we don't know how many we got right and how many we got wrong. We can figure it out since it's a small quiz, but we don't want to do that right now. So, and you know, you can always have a bigger quiz and it's going to be a hassle to figure it out. So we should print, and let's print a dashed line just to separate the two things first, and then let me just remake it here and here, and here we're going to say results. That's not really centered, but I guess it's kind of centered now. And we want to print. What do we want to print? We want to print the answers, and then we want to print the guesses, and then we want to take the score. So answers, and then we want to end the statement with an empty string. So what this is going to do is it's going to keep whatever comes next on the same line. And then we want to say for answer in answers. So for each answer in answers, this is known as a for each loop if you've studied Java before. Print answer, and then we want to end it with a space. So not an empty string, but a space, because now what this will do is just keep what comes next on the same line, which is this is what comes next. And what this is going to do is it's going to end each answer with a space. So it's going to be a space, and so on. And then we're basically done here. So let's just print an empty line. And then we want to do the same thing for guesses. So we're going to change this to guesses. And then for guess in guesses, and we want to print the guess. That's basically it. It's the same thing, but with guesses instead of answers. And last but not least, we want to print the percentage. So, or I should say score equals int score divided by the length of questions. So if we have 5 questions, it's going to be divided by 5. We can replace this with just the number 5. This right here, we can just replace it with the number 5. But like I said, if you have more than 5 questions or a lot of questions, it's going to be hassle. And if you add questions, then you're going to have to keep changing this number to however many questions the new amount is. And then we want to multiply it by 100 just to get an accurate percentage. And then print f statement that says how much your score is. So print f your score is, and then score percent. That's basically it. Let's check what we have so far, and if it works, then we're done. What is the capital of France? Let me just make this bigger. What is the capital of France? Let's say C, Paris. Who wrote the novel? I don't know, so I'm just gonna guess C. And it's incorrect. A is the correct answer. What is the largest ocean on Earth? C. Correct. How many continents are there? Let's say A. Let's say 5. Incorrect. C is the correct answer. And what is the square root of 64? Let's say, I'll get this one right, C. And as you can see right here, the answers are C, A, C, C, C. And I guessed C, 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 A, C. So that's why I got 2 wrong, which means it's 60%. So that's basically it for this Python video. If you enjoyed or learned something new, please like and subscribe. And as always, the full code will be posted in the comments down below. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to start doing one of our first games, and this is going to be a rock, paper, scissors game. So to get started, you're going to want to like and subscribe because that's the only way the program would run. And after you do that, you want to import random. So we've seen this module before. Random is going to help us pick, or it's going to help the computer pick a random choice between rock, paper, and scissors. And in order to do that, we need to store them inside of a list. So we have, or a tuple you could say. So we have options, and inside the options, we want to say rock, paper, and scissors. So we have a variable called running, and that variable is going to hold true. So true equals, or running equals true, which means that the program is running or the game is running. And when we want to step out of the game and stop playing it and stop running the program, we want to change it to false, but that's for later in the program. So while running, we're going to store it in a while loop. So while running, so while the loop is, while this is true, basically it's going to keep running. And we want to say player equals none, because the player didn't choose a choice yet. So we're going to store none inside that variable. And the computer, however, is going to have a choice. So we're going to say computer equals random dot choice, and it's going to pick a choice. We're going to pass in our options, and so that it can choose any choice from our options. So it can choose rock, paper, or scissors. Okay, so moving on, we want to say, like, if the player chooses something that's not in the options, we want to give that user a string of text to tell them that it's not going to work that way. So we can say while player not in options, which means if the player variable is storing something that's not in options, what do we want to do? We want to say player equals input, and then we can say anything like enter a proper choice. And then this is just us reminding them of the choices. And that's basically it for the, kind of, you could say, the exception. And I messed it up, but yeah. Okay, cool. So then we want to print a statement that tells you what the computer picked and what the player picked. And then we will say if you win or lose depending on the choices. So we're going to use a printf to make things simpler, but you can choose something else, and I could show you later on in the video. But we're going to say player, and here's going to be player, and we want to say, we're going to surround that by quotes, and we're going to say player and then player. So whatever the player picks, it's going to be stored in the player variable, and then here we're going to be inserting the player variable into the string, and it's going to say player colon and whatever the player picked. So here is going to be rock, paper, or scissors. And same thing goes for the computer, of course. So let's just copy that, and here we want to say computer and computer again. Okay, let's check what we have so far. So enter a choice, please, rock, paper, or scissors, and let's say that it's going to keep saying it. If we don't enter a choice, it's going to keep saying that. So let's pick a proper choice, and that's rock. So player picks rock, computer picks scissors, and it's going to keep asking you what do you want? So let's say scissors. Okay, it picked paper and I picked scissors, so technically I won here, and in the first round I won the first round as well, so that's great. So let's close the program and carry on. Now we want to see who wins and who loses, and we're going to do that with the help of if statements. So we're going to say if, and make sure you pay attention to the indentation, because if this if statement was over here, if it wasn't indented, then it would be outside of the while loop, and we don't want that because the while loop is the whole game, basically. So if player equal computer, which means that if we both pick the same thing, we want to print it's a tie. Okay, great. And we can say else if player equal rock and computer equal scissors. So if I pick rock and the computer picks scissors, what's gonna happen then? You tell me. We win, exactly. So print you win. And then we're just gonna copy paste this a few more times, and we're gonna change up the little the words. So okay, so if we pick the same thing, it's a tie, and if we pick rock and the computer picks scissors, we win. Now we want to say if we choose if we choose paper, sorry, and the computer chooses, let's say, rock, then you win again. And if we choose scissors and the computer chooses paper, we win. So these are all the winning scenarios that we have. So rock, paper, or scissors. And if we choose scissors and the computer chooses paper, we win. And then the rest we can just store it within an else statement. So we can delete all of this and say else print you lose. So this makes things a lot simpler than stating all the cases where we would win and all the cases where we would lose, because if we're not going to win and it's not a tie, then we lose. So you don't need to print more or type more else if statements. You can just put else, you lose. And let's try again. So whatever, it keeps asking, we say rock, the computer picked rock as well, so it's a tie. And we can choose paper, and the computer chose scissors, so that's not in any of our winning conditions, and it's not a tie, so we definitely lost. And so on and so forth. Okay, moving on. Now we want to ask if the player wants to continue playing or not, because this, as you can see, the program runs and runs and runs until I exit out of it manually from here. So how do we fix that? How we fix that is we can say if not input, and then we can prompt the user saying, do you want to play again? So we give it the choices here, Y or N, and that basically implies yes or no. And let me fix that. And then of course dot lower, because if the user has their caps lock on and they put Y, capital Y, we still want it to accept Y, like the normal Y. So equal Y. So if it's not Y, then what do? We say running equals false, because running is true, and while running is true, we're going to keep running this program. So if we set running to false, then it's no longer true, which means the while loop will terminate and it will stop running. And after all of this, you can simply just, do whatever you want. You can move on to the next program, or you can just print. So let's try it. Rock, paper, scissors. If we don't enter anything, it just keeps asking. If we enter something stupid, it keeps asking. And if we make a proper choice, as we should, like rock, computer picked rock, or I picked rock, sorry, and computer picked paper, so we lose. And that makes a lot of sense. If we say, let's say, Y, then it keeps asking us rock, and it's a tie. Now, if we say anything else, it stops. And also, of course, if we say N, or literally anything, like literally anything that's not Y, then the game stops and the loop terminates and the program ends, and it says thanks for playing. And I did say that you can do this another way, and basically the way you can do this is you can basically say for each one, you can say, for example, and this is very tedious of course, but you can say something like this. I'll give you a quick little rundown of it, but you can say if player equal computer, then what happens, we say print computer. I was gonna say computer picked, but we don't need to do that. And then we can say comma computer, and then we can do the same thing for player, and then we can say print tie, and then we can go ahead and say else if player equals rock, and then inside the else if statement we can say if computer equals paper, and then we do the same thing for player, and then we want to print you win or lose. Let me check. Okay, so if the player picks rock and the computer plays paper, then we say you lose, and so on and so forth. As you can see, this is going to be very tedious and very long because we're going to have to check each and every single case, and that could take a lot of time and code to write, so we don't really want that. So you just cancel that and stick to this. But if this works for you and it makes sense to you and it's easier for you to remember or learn, then go ahead and use that. But this is the way I prefer it because it's just a lot simpler. So with that being said, we have reached the end of this video, and if you enjoyed or learned something new, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more computer science content. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Python video. In this video we're going to be making a unit converter, where we will have some units and we will be converting them from one unit to another. So we're going to be using the Python strip function quite a lot in this video, and to explain it simply, the Python strip function is used to remove any extra white spaces and specified characters from the start and from the end of the strip, and this will make more sense as we use it in the upcoming examples. So to start off, we're going to need to define the function called unit converter, and within the function we will have a few print statements to start off with. So let me type that real quick. Okay, so to get started, it's going to give us a few print statements. The first one is going to be unit converter program, and after that it's going to say one length, which is meters to kilometers or kilometers to meters, and the second one is going to be weight, which is kilograms to pounds or pounds to kilograms, and third one is going to say temperature, which is Celsius to Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit to Celsius, and then we're going to have a choice variable. So this variable right here is going to store the choice that we enter, which is going to be either 1, 2, or 3. So it's going to ask you choose a conversion 1, 2, or 3, and then dot strip. again, dot strip right now, you can see that it's going to remove the white spaces and basically just choose 1, 2, or 3. Great, because I might say like 1 space or something like that. So it's going to strip that to just 1. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to have 3 big blocks of if statements. So the first one is going to say if choice equal 1. So what do we want to do if the choice is 1? If the user enters 1, what do we want to do? Basically, they're asking to convert some kind of length, either meters to kilometers or kilometers to meters. So let's continue that. So we're going to say unit type underscore type, and that is another variable that's going to say ask for some kind of input. So convert, so it's going to ask you if you want to convert from meters to kilometers, or I should switch that around, sorry, from meters to kilometers, or from kilometers to meters. So what do we want to do here? After that, it's going to say value. Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. It gets weird for me. But value equals to float, and this is again typecasting. So float input, enter the value. If you don't understand what typecasting is, I have a video on it. You can check that out to understand more about it. But basically, we're casting this string to a float. So enter the value. So we want to enter a value. So we want to say if unit type equal to m to km, then what do we want to do? We want to printf and choose the keyword argument of value, and we want to say meters equals to value oh my god, I messed it up, sorry, value divided by 1000 kilometers. And then we want to say else if the unit type is equal to kilometers to meters, and of course we need the quotes, I completely forgot about that, kilometers to meters. Then what do we want to do here? We want to print the same thing but in reverse. So print f quotes, and then we want to say value kilometers, which is going to replace this word with however many kilometers, equals to value or I should say times 1000 meters. So let's see if this works for now. So what's the function called? It's called unit converter. Let's call the function and try it out. So it's going to say unit converter program. We have length, weight, and temperature. Choose a conversion. Right now we don't have weight or temperature, so that will probably result in an error. We don't want to do that. Let's try 1. So convert from meters to kilometers or kilometers to meters. So we want to convert from meters to kilometers. Okay, enter the value. So let's say 1000 meters. 1000 meters is equal to 1 kilometers. So let's try that again, but the other way around. So meters, no, let's say kilometers to meters. Okay, enter the value. Let's say we want 25 kilometers. That's going to be equal to 25,000 meters. So as for now, the code works perfectly. So let's keep going and try out the other 2 unit conversions. So what's next? Next is going to be the weight. Okay, so for weight, what do we want to do here? We want to say else if choice equal 2. What do we want to do here if the choice is equal to 2? Let me just copy paste this just to make my life a little bit easier and to make it easier for you guys to understand as well. So here we have the second block. Okay, so it's going to say else if the choice is 2. So if we enter, if it asks us right here to choose between 1, 2, and 3, and we choose 2, then it's going to execute this block of code right here. And it's going to say unit type, this is this and this are both variables. The input statement is going to ask you, do you want to convert from kg to pounds or pounds to kg? And then you're going to enter that value, and you're going to enter the unit. And then after that, it's going to ask you for the value. So we're going to input the value here, which is going to be whatever, how many pounds or however many kilograms. And then it's going to say if the unit type is equal to kg to pounds, which is if right here we input kg to pounds, it's going to execute this block of code. If we say kilograms to pounds, then it's going to, or sorry, pounds to kilograms, it's going to execute this block of code. And then it's going to do the same thing that it did here with the printf. It's going to use the keyword argument of value, and it's going to say this many, which is how many you typed. So let's say if we say 5 kilograms, it's going to say 5 kilograms is equal to 5 times 2.20462 pounds. And it's going to do the calculation and then display it. And then same thing for the other block right here, which is the opposite, which is pounds to kilograms. And to get that, you need to divide by 2.20642, and you will get your value in kilograms. Else, invalid unit type. So if you type anything else other than this or this, you will get this message. So let's try that again. Let's see if this works. So choose a conversion to, and when programming, it's always good to check things as you go, just in case you don't mess something up throughout the whole code and then you don't know where you messed up exactly. So right now, if we mess up, we're going to know that we messed up in this block of code right here, because this works perfectly. So choose a conversion, 1, 2, or 3. We chose 2, convert from kg to pounds or pounds to kg. So we want to say, let's say kg to pounds, because I don't know how much I weigh in pounds. Enter the value. Okay, I weigh 88 kilograms. Let's see how much that is in pounds. So in pounds, that's 194.00 and so on pounds. So we can see that it works perfectly. So let's try and do the last block of code just to see how that works. Okay, so I think I did everything right. So we're going to start off with else if the choice is 3. We want to have the same thing for the unit type and the value, but in this case we're going to have dot strip and dot lower. Dot strip, I already explained what that does. Dot lower, basically if I enter a capital F, it'll make it lowercase f, just in case we have caps lock on and we accidentally type a capital letter or a lowercase letter. In this case, it will always be lowercase because this function will switch it to lowercase immediately. And then this right here is the same. So if we say that the unit type is C to F, which is Celsius to Fahrenheit, it's going to print this statement right here, which is printf value, and the value is going to be what we enter it to be, Celsius is equal to, and then it's going to do the calculation right here. And this is how you find Celsius to Fahrenheit, which is you take the number given of the Celsius degree, the degrees Celsius, and then you times it by 9/5, and then you take the product and you add 32 to it, and you get the answer, and then we say Fahrenheit at the end just to tell the user that this is in Fahrenheit now. So Fahrenheit to Celsius is going to do the same thing here, and then we're going to take the value, we're going to minus 32 from it, and we're going to, when we get the result, we're going to times it by 5/9, and that's going to give us Celsius. else. So if you type something other than F to C or C to F, it's going to execute this block of code, which is going to say invalid unit type, and you're going to have to retry. So let's try this. 3. So convert from C to F or F to C. We're going to say F to C. And this is where the function comes in, the .lower function. This is where it comes in handy, because we might have had F to C in capital or lowercase, and in this case we don't want it to matter. So enter the value. So we're going to be converting Fahrenheit to Celsius. We want to say, let's say 100 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be equal to, so as you saw, we ran into an error, and that error was basically because we had C to F and F to C in capital letters. The F in both cases was capital, and the C in both cases was also capital, which causes an error, and that's why I use .lower. But in this case, I just changed them to lowercase, and if we run it again and try it, then it should work this time. So 3, do you want it from C to F or F to C? So let's say F to C. Enter the value, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So 100 degrees Fahrenheit is going to be 37.7 degrees Celsius. And if we try it the other way around, so let's say C to F, and let's choose 100. So 100 degrees Celsius, it's 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's basically it for today's program. I hope you guys enjoyed or learned something new. As always, the full code will be in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello and welcome back to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be making a hangman game. So this is going to be a bit challenging, probably one of the most challenging programs I've made on this channel, but bear with me, we should get through this together. So we're going to start with calling our function, or defining our function, sorry, and we need to import the random module, and we need a couple variables. So first, we're going to need words, and this one is going to be a list of words. So let me type that out real quick. Then we're going to need a variable that says word to guess. So we need a word to guess from these list of words. And to do that, we need to pick a random word, and this is where the random module comes in, random.choice, and we're going to pass in our words list. And then we need another variable to keep track of the words we guessed. So guessed words, or sorry, letters. So this is going to be an empty list for now. And then we need an attempts variable. So attempts equals to 6, because in hangman there are 6 attempts that you have. And then we need a word display variable to keep track of the words and then display them. So word display, and then we're going to have a list, and within that list we're going to have an empty string for now, and it's going to be times length word to guess. So this is going to make more sense in the future, but just bear with me for now. So we're going to print welcome to hangman. Great. Now we need a while loop, because it's a game, and usually in games you have a while loop for it to stay working until something happens that makes it stop working. So right now we have a while loop that's going to keep running as long as our attempts are greater than 0, because if they're greater than 0, that means we at least have one more attempt left. And we want to say and in word display. So as long as the word display is empty. Moving on. So we want to print a couple things. We want to print f. Let me type all these out and then I'll explain it. Okay, so this is to guess or show the current guessed word. This block of code right here is to show the letters that are already guessed, and this right here is to show you how many attempts are left, and this right here is to store the guess of the player. And the dot lower function, as you know, is to make whatever guess you type in, make it all lowercase, just in case we run into any problems with, letters being uppercase or lowercase, because Python is case sensitive. So next we want to check the guess. So to check the guess, we need an if statement. So if guess in guessed letters, what do we want to do? We want to print you already guessed that letter. And I'll type the rest of the code and I'll get back to you and explain each part. So let's run it back a little bit. First, we need to import the random module. Then we define the function, and then we have a couple variables. First, it's going to be words, and these are the words that we might have to guess. It's going to be one of these randomly, and then it's going to be the word to guess variable, and that's going to choose a random word from one of these. So we don't know which word it's going to be. That makes it harder for us, even as the person who made this program, because it might be either one of these. Like even if we type P and it'll start in the beginning, we don't know if it's going to be this one or this one, but that's just a little trick. So, and then we have an empty list of the guessed letters. This is going to be added onto or appended to, which means append basically means you add to the end of the list. So if there's something here, we're going to add something at the end of it, just like that. So moving on, we have 6 attempts, just how it is in Hangman, and then we have the word display. So the word display is going to have an underscore for each of the length of the word to guess. So basically, if it's Hangman has what 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 letters, so it's going to be 7 underscores, and then it's going to print welcome to Hangman. So while the attempts are more than 0 and there's an underscore in word display, we want to print these. So first it's going to say, this is basically telling you the state of the game, right? So it's going to say, this is going to be for the guessed word. It shows you like the current state of it. And then this one is going to be the letters that you have guessed already. And this is going to be, of course, as you can tell, the attempts that remain. And then it's going to keep track of, or it's going to take your guess and it's going to make it lowercase, just in case you type in capital letters, because Python is case sensitive, as I've mentioned before. And then it's going to check the guess over here. If you already guessed that guess, so if I typed P and I already typed P before, then it's going to say you already guessed that letter. If not, then it is going to tell the player if it's correct, that is. If it's a correct guess, it's going to tell the player that it's correct, and then it's going to replace the underscore with the correct letter, and then it's going to add the guess to the guessed letters, as you can tell right here. Else, so if it's incorrect, it's going to say print incorrect, so it's going to print incorrect, and then it will append the guessed letters list with whatever you just guessed, and then it's going to -1 from your attempts. So if you had 6 attempts, it's going to be 5. Great. Now, so if the underscore is not in word display, that means it's over. So it's going to say, congrats, you guessed the word, and it's going to tell you the word. And if you didn't guess it, then it will tell you you lost, and the word to guess was whatever it is. So let's run it, and we shall see if this works. Let's hope it works. Great. So welcome to Hangman. The word is 1 2 3 4 5, 6, 7 letters. Okay, so let's say H, because I'm guessing it's hangman. Okay, so guessed letters, we guessed H. So H is the first letter. We still have 6 attempts because that was right. So let's say A. Great. Now it's going to replace this one and this one with A. Let's say N, G, M. Great. So the guessed letters these are the guessed letters that we guessed. Attempts left 6 because we got 0 wrong. Guess a letter and it's correct. So obviously there are some things that need to be changed within this. So first thing that needs to be changed is the indentation. The indentation here was a bit too like deep in, so we needed to bring it out. Okay, so I had to make a couple minor changes. First of all, I changed this from a list, it was like this before, to a set, because with a set you don't get anything that is like added more than once, so everything is unique in a set. Whereas the list, it was showing like whatever it was, like for example A, right? Or like M over and over again. So with a set, that won't happen. Also, with a set, I also used a sorted set so that it's more easy to read. And of course, instead of append, because with a set you add to the set, you don't append. So with a list you append, so I added so I removed the append and added add instead of it. And of course, like I said before, I changed the indentation for these, so it should be working fine now. Let's try it out. So we have the word, welcome to hangman, guessed letters, attempts, okay, guess a letter, let's say P. Okay, the first letter is P, so I'm guessing it's Python, but let's try to get some incorrect on purpose. So A, you already guessed that. Let's see, if you guess it twice, it tells you already guessed that letter, and the attempts do not go down, so that's good. So P, Y, okay, T, H, O, N. So congrats, you guessed the word. So let's try to get it wrong on purpose. So let's say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay, you lost. The word was computer. So that's basically it for this Python video. I hope you guys enjoyed or learned something new. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.